Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Mighty Stream, and I'm going to do our Just for Today in a meditation for October the 19th. It's so good to be with you. I hope that you're doing well. Let's go ahead and get into that screen. Can you see that? Okay. The title of the meditation for today, October 19th, Standing for Something. We feel, we could feel time, touch reality, and recognize spiritual values long lost to many of us. Now, that comes from the basic text, page 88. In our active addiction, we were prepared to compromise everything we believed in just to get our hands on more drugs. Whether we stole from our families and friends, sold ourselves, or lied to our employers. We were ignoring the values that mattered most to us. Each time we compromised another dearly held belief, another chunk of the mortar holding our characters together fell away. By the time many of us came to our first meeting, nothing was left but the ruin of our former selves. We will locate our lost values as we carry out our first honest self examination. But in order to rebuild our characters, we'll find it necessary to maintain those values, no matter how great the temptation to shove them aside. We will need to be honest, even when we think we could fool everyone by lying. If we ignore our values, we'll discover that the biggest fibs we've told have been the ones we've told ourselves. We don't want to start the demolition of our spirits again after all the work we put into their restoration. It's essential that we stand for something or we risk falling for anything. Whatever we find important to us, we honor. Just for today, I stand for something. My strength is the result of living my values. Now let's take a moment of silence followed by the we version of the Serenity Prayer. Moment of silence now. Thank you. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Just for today, please and thank you. Wow, what a powerful meditation. I was just reading it and thinking to myself, this is well, I'm so analytical, right? I was reading it and thinking to myself, this is well written. I wasn't ready. I understood the assignment, but I was not ready for how well written this meditation was. It threw me from the jump, right? It was really well written and I enjoyed it. Welcome to the show for the individuals that are new. We are creeping up in our number of subscribers, and I'm so excited to have you with us because we understand each other. We're addicts, right? And it's so nice to be able to fellowship with each other early in the morning, get our meditations in, and so when we do show up to the when we do actually show up to the in-person meetings, right, we are on top of it because we have actually done the just for today and the spiritual principle a day, which I will do following this, right? And so it's exciting to be with you. Many of you know that I'm dealing with cancer and I am going through my chemo very well. I've had a few hiccups. I had some blood clots and I've had such a pain level that he had to cancel one of my chemos because the pain was just too great. Um, But I am feeling good today, and I'm excited that I get an opportunity to beat this cancer and live. And so, thank you for your thoughts and your prayers. Okay, Mighty Stream is doing very well, if you're wondering. So, thank you. Standing for something. I like that because we know that old cliche, you got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. What this is actually talking about is that we have had a spiritual transformation. We went from not caring about anything and using drugs to mask those feelings so we could make sure that we could do what we want when we wanted it, the way that we wanted it, because we wanted it, right? So much self-centeredness in active addiction. But we go from that to actually not picking up the drug no matter what. We're a part of the no matter what club now, right? And so we don't pick up the drugs. We don't pick them up and we go through whatever it is that we're dealing with. And we find that our character begins to change. And I want to say this, I just want to put this out there. When we stop using drugs and we begin to participate actively in our recovery, and what that means to me is we are going to meetings, we're hopefully doing service work. We have a network of individuals in the fellowship that are clean, that we're interacting with. A lot of times that happens, guys, before we even get the sponsor. And that fellowshipping has to happen because within that network, we usually find the individual that we're looking for to be our sponsor. So if you have a chance and you don't have a sponsor and you have a chance to go do coffee or sit longer after the meeting and fellowship, stand around in the parking lot. If you have an opportunity to do that, participate in your recovery by joining in the fellowship with other individuals. Because in that fellowship, you will likely find the individual that can sponsor you. And so now when you have a sponsor, whether or not you dive into the steps right away, you are in a position for a character transformation. And when that character of yours begins to transform, you find that you show up for the things that you say you're going to show up for. You refuse to lie, even though lying would make your life a little bit easier. You give back the money when the cashier has given you too much. You refuse to steal when you're in the store and you actually go through the checkout line and pay for what it is you wanted. You begin to have these transformations that are taking place. And I say whether or not you're working the steps, because you are now influenced by the spiritual principles of Narcotics Anonymous. The moment that you admit that you're powerless over the disease of addiction, and the moment that you decide that you are actually a member of Narcotics Anonymous and you participate in your recovery, you begin to be transformed. Now, that happens, I believe, whether or not you work the steps. But if you want the full transformation, you're going to find a sponsor and work the steps and apply these spiritual principles in all of your affairs. All. And that's what this is talking about, is that you have begun to change. And as a result of this transformation of not using drugs and our character begins to blossom, you decide that you're going to stand for that instead of tossing it away when things don't go your way. or when things would be more convenient for you if you just control it a little bit, manipulate it a little bit. This is talking about not doing that, standing for the progress that you've made instead of falling for the old okey doke, right? And doing what you think you want to do. So today, I just want to encourage all of us to remember that even when it doesn't feel like we've made progress, we have. We are not the same people. Hopefully, we're not. There's some people that hold on to their old way of doing things, but the majority of us, by far, the majority of us, begin to experience a spiritual transformation and our character begins to change and it begins to, in other words, lean into the more positive spiritual way of doing things instead of the lower destructive power that the basic text talks about. We begin to leave that way of doing things, that way of thinking. And when things come up, we don't want to go through another demolition of our spirits. So I wish I would go to a store and steal something. I wish I would. Now, I'm not saying the thought has never in 31 years of being clean crossed my mind that it'd be a little bit more advantageous to save my money and take something. I'm not saying that, right? I'm saying that I wouldn't dare. The work that I've done in recovery, I wouldn't dare go into a store and take something that doesn't belong to me and then have to deal with my conscience. See, Mighty Stream has a conscience today, right? I care today about how things that I could or could not do are going to make me feel. I wasn't there. I don't want to go through that. I don't want to feel the weight of the guilt and not to mention the shame because I'm at the point and stage in my recovery. I'm probably gonna go back into the store, admit that I took it, try to give it back and pay for it or just ask for forgiveness so they don't end up charging me with shoplifting. I wasn't there. I don't have the time nor the energy as far as I've come in recovery to go back to doing things. And that never was my thing anyway. I don't really ever remember shoplifting, right? But I wouldn't dare put that in my conscience today. I wouldn't dare. And so when we experience this transformation with this meditation, it's saying we're gonna stand for something. Stand for those values that you have learned to live by in Narcotics Anonymous. And I hope that's your experience. I hope that is what, as you go through life and you're experiencing temptations, to go back to old ways of doing things, that you remember that you've come a long way. If you want to add that to, if you want to add that to your fourth and fifth step, go ahead. But I'm not. I'm not falling for that. I'm going to stand for my recovery. And I want you to do the same. Hey, guys, I think that's a wrap up for that one. I hope that you have a beautiful day today. I intend to. I intend to have a beautiful day. I'll probably take a nap when I'm done. I'll take a brief nap for a couple hours and I'll get back up and enjoy the weekend with my boys. Have a beautiful day on purpose. Thank you for listening.